Okay, hello guys, welcome to another video. Right now I'm gonna do part 2. I just came from part 1 of Oversimplified, reacting to World War 1, and just pretty amazing stuff. Definitely a lot shorter than the Second World War. But let's just watch it. If you didn't watch part 1, go watch it, but I'm gonna say it again. If you like, you can go to my Skillshare class link to help your boy out. It's getting cold. It's winter. I need to buy some winter clothes, and I really enjoy uploading videos. I really do. So I appreciate everything you do. Every like, every subscriber. I respond to every comment because it's just what I like to do. So let's just go with part. Am I recording? Oh yeah, I am. Okay. So part 2.
With both sides stuck in a hard stalemate, they knew this war wasn't going to be about taking territory, but about simply wearing each other down. The Allies had plenty of men to expend from its overseas dominion.
Kind of stupid war.
And the British also started a naval blockade, so Germany couldn't import stuff, like food. Neither side really wanted a long grueling war though, so they both thought of ways to break the deadlock on the Western Front. Idea number 1, new frontiers. When the war first broke out, Australia was quick to take German New Guinea. The Allies also quickly jumped on Germany's colonies in Africa, and particularly in German East Africa, locals were enlisted as soldiers and carriers by both sides, leading to a tragic loss of life for the native Africans. Some new combatants entered the war as well. The Allies' new friends were Italy and Japan. Japan was busy building itself an empire, so it was more than happy to take away German islands and colonies in East Asia. Italy actually had an alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary before the war, but after some tense relations, and then the Allies promising to give them some of Austria-Hungary's stuff, they switched sides. Italy opened up a front in the mountains here, but like everyone else, they were stuck in stalemate for most of the war. The Central Powers' new friend was a struggling empire in the Middle East. The Ottomans were divided on whether to actually join the war or not, right? Since they had been exhausted by the recent Balkan Wars. Some of the politicians who did want to join went off on their own and fired some shells at Russia.
Oh no.
And then came back and said, whoops, looks like we're at war now. The Ottoman entry into the war was a particular concern to the British, since the Middle East was full of oil, and Britain wanted all of that oil.
Of course.
First, the Ottomans tried to attack Russia in the Caucasus Mountains, but they weren't prepared for the cold, and many of them froze to death. Then they crossed miles of desert to take the Suez Canal from the British, but that failed too. Then the Allies tried to take the Dardanelles at Gallipoli in a long and hard trench warfare campaign, but that also failed. The Ottomans blamed their initial losses on the ethnic Armenians living within Ottoman territory, and the resulting Armenian genocide led to the deaths of 1.5 million people. Then the Germans sent spies into Afghanistan to try to convince the Arab tribes there to rise up in jihad against the British and attack India. But that plan failed, partly because the spies got bored, brewed their own alcohol, and got drunk, which is a bad thing to do in Afghanistan.
Oh no. Yeah. Don't brew your own alcohol in Afghanistan. You probably maybe will piss a couple locals at least.
The frontiers hadn't done much to change the war. Aware that the Allies had more men and supplies than them, the Germans knew they had to do something to break the stalemate. Before the war, there was a big conference that set out the rules of modern warfare. No chemical weapons, no killing civilians. Basically, don't be jerks. The Germans held a meeting and decided to be jerks. Zeppelin air raids commenced over British cities. They also started attacking the Allied trenches with chlorine gas.
Oh my god. Look at this massive cloud of I mean, this is kind of a big cloud of toxic gas. It's just massive. I mean, look at this. I imagine this maybe is a trench and, it got gassed up. Just brutal.
Gas, and they used submarines to sink civilian ships. One such civilian ship was the Lusitania, which had 159 Americans on board when it was sunk, further swaying U.S. opinion.
Yeah, release America!
Completely unfair to the Germans, the Allies also engaged in chemical warfare soon after, and they had been hiding anti-submarine weapons on their civilian ships, which let the Germans justify their attacks. Meanwhile, Austria-Hungary still hadn't dealt with Serbia, so the Central Powers enlisted some help. Bulgaria wished it was bigger and was still bitter about losing the Second Balkan War. The Central Powers promised to make all of Bulgaria's wildest dreams come true if they helped, so they signed on.
Wait.
The Central Powers promised to make all of Bulgaria's...
Look. Is this Harambe? Oh man, my man. Attention to detail, bro. attention to detail. That's nice, bro. Rest in peace, my man.
Wildest dreams come true if they helped, so they signed on, and together they knocked out Serbia. The Serbian troops retreated through Albania, which was neutral but had some ties to Austria-Hungary. So Austria-Hungary entered Albania in a friendly invasion to chase down the Serbians, many of whom escaped by sea. It's 1916, and a lot is happening. As if they didn't have enough enemies already, Germany added one more to the list. Portugal had been getting a bit chummy with the Allies behind the scenes, and Germany didn't like that one bit. Around the same time, the only sea battle of the war happened. Both sides had a new powerful class of battleships called dreadnoughts, but they were so expensive to build that neither side wanted to risk losing them in a battle, so they kept them in port, except for one time when they had a big fight and a bunch of them got damaged, so they didn't try that again. The UK started conscripting men to the army, so they had plenty of reserves, which is just as well because the Western Front was about to get brutal. The longest and one of the bloodiest battles of the war started when the Germans launched an attack around the French city of Verdun. The French defended it desperately, leading to hundreds of thousands of casualties. Under pressure, the French called on its allies to do something to draw the Germans' attention away, so the British started their own long and brutal fight, the Battle of the Somme, with 60,000 British casualties on just the first day.
Wow.
It was also here that the British first used one crazy brand new piece of sci-fi technology.
Oh, nice.
The Russians had been getting pushed back further and further into their own territory, but in response to the French call for help, they began a huge offensive, and did really well until they ran out of supplies and got stuck. Seeing how well the Russians had been doing, Romania decided now would be a great time to jump in and win the war, and then they got pounded. The Greeks were fighting amongst themselves about whether to join the war or not.
So basically, everyone was wondering if they should join the war or not. This is how old school this war really is. I mean, it happened over 100 years ago, so it just gives you a little bit of perspective.
King liked the Central Powers, while the Prime Minister wanted to join the Allies. After a brief national schism, during which the country split into two, the king finally abdicated and the country reunited. With Allied help, they began a new offensive. In the Middle East, Russia was pushing into Ottoman territory from the north. The British had also made a landing in Mesopotamia to protect Persia's oil
Kuwait.
fields, and they had also sent a small army up the Tigris River to try to take Baghdad, but the army got sieged in the town of Kut along the way, and eventually surrendered. A new offensive was launched from the south with all-out desert warfare. The offensive was aided by one famous British officer, better known as Lawrence of Arabia, who helped lead the Arab tribes in a revolt that wreaked havoc on the Ottoman supply
Nice,
line.
dude.
By the
Cool.
time 1917 rolled around, everyone was exhausted. There were mutinies in the French army, the German populace was starving, and the war had drained all of Russia's supplies. There was no clear winner, and it was still anyone's war. The only question now was, who was going to break first? And the answer was Russia. Tired of not eating and mad that
Oh,
a
yeah,
crazy
of course,
magic
yeah.
homeless guy was calling some of the
Rasputin.
shots, there was an uprising in Petrograd complete with riots and strikes. The riots turned into a full-scale revolution, and a new government overthrew the Tsar. Then a few months later, the Bolsheviks overthrew the new government, and they pulled
Communism,
Russia out
yep.
of the war. This was great news for Germany, who now only had to focus on the Western Front. But there was still one problem. The pesky United States of America was looking increasingly like it was going to join the war. America had been selling supplies to the Allies throughout the war and was getting super rich off the back of it, meaning it was in fantastic shape and was dangerous to the Germans. So Germany sent a telegram to Mexico saying, "Wouldn't it be crazy cool if you guys attacked America?" But the British intercepted the telegram to Mexico saying, "Wouldn't it be crazy cool if you guys attacked America?"
Of course, the very famous Zimmerman telegram. Yeah, this is a kind of a famous tale in Mexico. And the craziest part is that the president at that time, which I think it was Venustiano Carranza, which is just a Mexican dude, he actually kind of considered it. He was like, okay, let's see if we have a chance, and let's see like what are the options. And like he actually was like, could we attack America? Of course, the answer was, it's not a good idea. It wasn't a good idea. Well, first of all, the most obvious, that is, America is just simply a little more powerful than Mexico, army-wise. And also, we were just fighting our own civil war. So, not a good time, not a good moment. Also, another reason was that even if we were to like capture back Texas, California, whatever, there would still be a big population of Americans that would be heavily armed and that wouldn't just sit down and take it. So like getting control of those territories would be extremely difficult. It wouldn't be possible. Let's actually see if we can find something about it. There we go. Zimmerman telegram. Okay. So here's the actual telegram. It's crazy. Charged German embassy. So this comes from the embassy. It's a Western Union telegram. And let's see, like, what are the reasons? American response, Japanese response. Okay, Mexican response. There it is. Okay, Mexico was in the midst of a civil war. The U.S. was stronger militarily. Germany's promises of general financial support was very unreliable. Germany was losing the war. Purchase arms, ammunition from other ABC nations, Argentina, Brazil, Chile. Even if by some chance Mexico to the U.S. Okay, yeah, that's true though. So, there we go. There we have it. Now you know.
America, but the British intercepted the message, showed it to the Americans, and that was the final straw. American troops began shipping out to Europe. This was terrible news for Germany, and they knew their only hope now was to force...
What would have happened if they hadn't done that? If they hadn't sent the telegram, what would have happened? It's just crazy to think that maybe they would have won the war. Again, I'm not extremely lectured on the First World War, but maybe it could have happened. I mean, that telegram kind of changed the course of history.
France and the UK to surrender before the fresh American troops arrived. It was now or never, so they started one final attack. They converged their troops and hit hard at the Somme and pushed the Allies back. They hit a second time further north, then again and again. With each hit, the Germans were spending more and more resources, while the Allies were getting better and better at repelling their attacks. By the fifth punch, the Allies held the line and even pushed back. With American troops now arriving in larger numbers, the Allies launched a counterattack, and that was it. The Central Powers were being pushed back on all fronts. Bulgaria collapsed first, followed by the Ottoman Empire, then Austria-Hungary, and finally on November 11, 1918, at 11 o'clock, Germany surrendered. At the peace treaty, Germany was forced to reduce its military.
Germany calms down. Should be ashamed. Dishes out the mullah. Wow, 17 million.
Its lesson and never had such an awful war again. For about 20 years.
True though, that's true. Well, that was pretty quick. That was pretty interesting. I really enjoyed that. Hey, it's a terrible war. It's always to learn about. It's always good to learn about history, about your past. Mexico was kind of involved in this one, so I was very excited to watch this video. I didn't know if he was gonna talk about it, but he did, and it was interesting just to get out those facts. But yeah, if you like this video, share it, give it a subscribe, give me a like. Most of the people that watch the videos don't subscribe, and I respond to all comments. So, you just comment something nice, or some interesting fact. If you're Austrian, if you're German, if you're American, British, and you know something interesting, or you had like a family member that fought, put it on the comments. A lot of people would find that interesting. So I'll see you guys later.